Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren appeared on CBS and got asked a question that, as sad as it is, we all know the answer to, which essentially was, and I'll show you this clip in a second, are Republicans shifting at all when it comes to legislation to address the brutal and constant issue of gun violence in the United States? And what the hosts mean by that is, will they actually get on board with, yes, addressing this issue on multiple fronts, but one of those has to be gun control, and that's the one they refuse to implement any common sense policy on. And the answer we all know Elizabeth Warren will have to give is no. There isn't any change when it comes to Republican stance on this. And she has some pretty stark words for Republicans.
A short answer to the question about guns. Once again, the horrible shooting in Nashville. I know it's not an easy answer, but will something change this time? Are your Republican colleagues saying something differently behind the scenes about let's make changes in gun laws?
I just can't tell you how frustrating this is. Our children die because there are Republicans in Congress who continue to insist that we can't put just basic safety measures in place.
So you don't see any behind-the-scenes conversation that makes you optimistic or hopeful that there will be changes?
Can I just do one? In Massachusetts, we have tougher gun laws. If the laws that we have in Massachusetts were the laws all across this country, independent studies show we would reduce deaths from gun violence by about 70%. These are the lives of our children, our neighbors, our friends, and we just can't get the Republicans
That's why it's frustrating. People know what to do.
Exactly.
Unfortunately,
nothing ever changes.
We'll probably be having this conversation again.
Yep.
Senator Warren, thank you so much.
And we will be having this conversation again. Elizabeth Warren's right. If this many mass shootings can take place, if generally this much gun violence can occur and not move Republicans who are so ideologically committed to the stance that the guns can at all be regulated, then what's going to change that? The only way is to elect individuals who don't hold this ideology, because it seems hoping the ideology will change is just not a winning battle. But Elizabeth Warren's so right that so much harm is being allowed because of the inaction by Republicans. And I'll always say when we talk about this, yes, when they say so that they don't have to talk about gun control, they'll say, oh, it's about mental health, it's about school security. Yes, that too. That too. But you can't ignore the gun element of it. And when they say things like, and by the way, it's often Republicans who stand against funding mental health programs, so that's disingenuous too. But I do want to invest in multiple areas to address crime and gun violence, of course, but gun control is one of those important, crucial areas that has to be focused on. They'll say, guns don't kill people, people kill people. The individual doing the killing is absolutely responsible for their actions. And also, we don't have to give that individual, in the case of mass shooting, that deranged individual, we don't have to give them easy access to a weapon of war, to a weapon designed to kill a bunch of people quickly. We don't have to do that. But so many insist that for some reason our laws have to allow for that. And the general saturation of guns into our communities, they refuse to admit that has an effect on gun violence. Absolutely. And I always want to, in these segments, just throw in a couple bits of information so we continue to build our understanding about this. Here from Scientific America, a study comparing gun deaths in the United States to other high-income countries in Europe and Asia tells us that our homicide rate in teens and young adults is 49 times higher. Our firearm suicide rate is 8 times higher. The U.S. has more guns than any of the countries in the comparison. As we previously reported in 2015, assaults with a firearm were 6.8 times more common in states that had the most guns compared to the least. More than a dozen studies have revealed that if you had a gun at home, you were twice as likely to be killed as someone who didn't. Research from the Harvard School of Public Health tells us that states with higher gun ownership levels have higher rates of homicide. Data even tells us, and this is more addressing saturation. We've talked previously about strict gun laws versus weak gun laws and the effect that has. But as I said, I want to add new information when we talk about this, that where gun shops or gun dealers open for business, killings go up. That's interesting. These are but a few of the studies that show the exact opposite of what pro-gun politicians are saying. The science must not be ignored. Science points to laws that would work to reduce shootings, to lower death. Among the simplest would be better permitting laws with fewer loopholes. When Missouri repealed its permit law, gun-related killings increased by 25%. Another would be to ban people who are convicted of violent crime from buying a gun. In California, before the state passed such a law, people convicted of crimes were almost 30% more likely to be arrested again for a gun or violent crime than those who, after the law, couldn't buy a gun. And we'll just look at one other quick thing here. Here from a Northwestern medicine study found the federal assault weapons ban that included a ban on large capacity magazines from 1994 to 2004 resulted in a significant decrease in public mass shootings, number of gun deaths, and number of gun injuries. And we could go on further, but for the sake of time, we won't. The evidence is clear. We have to, if we are serious about addressing gun violence, we must address the guns and the laws surrounding the guns and the regulation and the awareness of the way that overall saturation and an influx of weapons, how that affects gun violence. And as long as this distorted, either dishonest or delusional view about guns and the Second Amendment and all of this remains, we are going to continue to watch people of all different ages. And because the Republican Party is constantly talking about protecting the children be killed at the hands of weapons and losing their life completely unnecessarily. That's just the reality. And we will continue to watch this cycle unless we get better politicians into power who hold the correct view on protecting human life.